Demon Lord Rimuru wished to join the council. It would have been easy to reject him outright. Mariabell had foreseen wars before and bought up crops and other goods in anticipation. Furthermore, due to the civil unrest in the Kingdom of Bloomond, the civilians' own stores went into circulation on the market. We can just hire mercenaries disguised as bandits to burn down the villages around towns at night, and that way she could raise the price of the food, as well as limiting the quantity of bread in the market. If it were a smaller nation, with such a small limit, people's daily meals would become a huge issue. Fear inspired by food shortages was the most terrifying. Such resentment would be directed towards the people who started the war. These ignorant people who didn't know any better would simply push all responsibility to Demon Lord Rimuru. By that time, the representatives of these smaller nations would then oppose Demon Lord Rimuru's entry to the council. To Mariabell, it was child's play to execute this plan. But she had doubts. No good, this won't work. You can't transport rations with magic, that's common sense, but that Demon Lord may make it a reality. He used fresh ingredients during the night feast, there is no doubt about it. Moreover, he also had connections with major figures such as Dwarven King Gazel and the Emperor of Sarian, Olmita. It will probably be less trouble to just accept Demon Lord Rimuru. If she were to oppress the smaller nations via food shortages, it might give Demon Lord Rimuru a chance to provide food support. To threaten her opponents in such a way, if she failed, she would become the second Duke Muse. If I were to continue the unsuccessful plan from last time, he may retaliate in some way. This was Mariabell's conclusion. She wasn't so narcissistic to think she could just come up with the best plan on the spot. All she could do was to quietly and cautiously do what she was able to. As such, all that was left for her was the carrot. If we were to give them the carrot, I would first need to meet him and discuss an alliance. As long as we can agree on conditions, no, this won't work. I can't back down now. I am Mariabell of Greed. Even if my opponent is a demon lord, I can still dominate him. I must do this, Mariabell thought to herself. Her unique skill Greed had the power to bend her subject to her own will. First, she would control her target's desire, and then let her target do as she commanded. Just like what she had done to Yuki, Mariabell began to control others without them knowing. There were, in fact, two ways she could achieve this. The first way, using her own desires to overcome the desires of her subject, leading the two to agree on a goal and therefore turn her opponent into her ally. As for the drawback of this method, it was that it could only be activated in conversation-length interactions. It was like a toxin with a delayed effect, which meant she needed to try multiple times in order for such an opportunity to emerge. However, it was difficult to avoid raising suspicion since, in the eyes of others, lasting conversations might appear unnatural. In addition, not only did she need to find the right timing for these conversations, but the amount of desire she could insert into others' minds was also limited. She needed patience to slowly achieve her goal in this way. The second method worked much faster. She simply used her unique skill Greed to forcefully dominate her target. It didn't take as much time, as she could directly inject all the desire required and completely destroy her target's will, turning it into a walking puppet. But this technique was too dangerous. Depending on the extent of her target's desire, it might take different lengths of time. Even if it were for just a few seconds, for someone as strong as Demon Lord Rimuru, it would be enough time for him to kill Mariabell. It could be compared to how the young Mariabell aborted the idea when she met Granbell. She would need everything prepared in order to execute this method. These were the two ways that unique skill Greed could be used to manipulate others. It was to be expected from a skill that originated from humans' fundamental desires. No one could resist it. The problem lay with the amount of time needed, as well as the extent of one's desire. No matter what method Mariabell decided to use, the prerequisites were always that the target's desire must exceed a certain amount. The greater their desires were, the easier it was for Mariabell to manipulate them. But if her target had too little desire, Mariabell's greed manipulated others using their desires, and with little desire, her influence naturally would also be weaker. It was possible, however, for her to stimulate small desires until they were big enough for Mariabell to control, but it would also be time-consuming, and could be a cause for suspicion. That was why Mariabell could never control Hinata the Saint. It might have been different had there been more chances for the two to meet, but if she were to suddenly have a meeting with Hinata, surely, it would have raised her suspicion. Such a venture was not worth the risk, and so Mariabell gave up on manipulating Hinata. Comparatively, Yuki was introduced to Mariabell by Johann of the Five Great Elders, so that the two could hold secret meetings. He was easy to control. Then, the problem here would be Demon Lord Rimuru. Even though I got a look up close, Demon Lord Rimuru seemed to have very little desire. Yet considering all the feats he's accomplished prior, this is just straight up cheating. Mariabell had attended the night feast and seen Rimuru with her own eyes. During her stay, she determined that Rimuru's desire barely met the minimum requirement for manipulation. Even though she would probably be able to control him with a few attempts, her influence would be far from enough. With that being said, as long as she could control him successfully, there was always a way in the future. If things went south, she could always use her trump card. Moreover, if she were successful, Demon Lord Rimuru would be hers to command. In that way, Baldor, who had also been tamed by Demon Lord Rimuru, would also be at Mariabell's disposal. The evil dragon that even the god feared, that was truly a tempting thought to Mariabell. But I will still have to observe for a while. Then I will come up with a plan to manipulate Demon Lord Rimuru more safely. Mariabell made up her mind. Next, she needed to strategize the plan. Yuki said that he would avoid antagonizing Demon Lord Rimuru. According to this plan, it was said that Demon Lord Kazalam, in other words, Kaguli, would lead the way to the ruins. There seemed to be some dangerous facilities inside the ruins, but she planned to guide them safely without stirring up any trouble. This could be utilized as part of her plan. I will send a letter to him. We should invite the Demon Lord to attend a council conference, where we can see how he reacts. Will the Demon Lord agree to the invitation? Certainly. He expressly wants to join the Western States Council. How very bizarre. Rimuru-san wishes to coexist peacefully with humans. He will follow the rules of the association in order to show that monsters working under him are all friendly. Hearing Yuki's explanation, Mariabell suddenly understood Rimuru's actions. But in realizing that, she decided that he was an idiot. To bind on Aselfto rules was the equivalent of forcing one's freedom. Mariabell thought it was an utterly moronic act for a demon lord to abandon his martial prowess, and instead side with the humans. Then we shall grant his wish. I will corrupt him with my desire. How terrifying. Although sensibly speaking, Yuki Kagurazaka should be powerful enough to rival Hinata the Saint. If he had fought seriously, there should yet be a chance for him to defeat Demon Lord Rimuru. You've already controlled someone as strong as him, are you seriously going to do the same to a Demon Lord now? Yuki has too much ambition. He himself hasn't even realized that I am manipulating him. He probably thinks that he's negotiating by his own volition. In front of Yuki's face, Mariabell continued to say. That's something he should be happy about. The reason why Yuki hadn't been crushed by his excessive desire was because she controlled him. Yuki, on the other hand, was silent, completely ignoring whatever Mariabell just said. That was how perfect Mariabell's control was. Demon Lord Rimuru probably will be none the wiser. Mariabell, wouldn't you be like an infant in front of you? By the way, are you sure your control is flawless? What does that mean? Mariabell glared at him coldly. Nah, nothing. I'm just worried that someone may crack your control, Johann answered, rather nervously. Your fears are unfounded. Once corrupted, a desire can never be restored, as long as it does not surpass mine. Mariabell was greed personified, and even manifested the unique skill greed. There was probably no other man in this world that possessed greater desire than her. Mariabell believed this so deeply that she couldn't help but laugh off Johann's worries. You have a point. I also have faith in you, Mariabell, Johann said, hoping Mariabell wouldn't take out a wrath on him. Her status was next to Granbell's. Mariabell was the authentic second in command. And so even Johann of the 5 great elders couldn't survive her wrath. And speaking of making Mariabell angry, Johann himself may also be subjected to mental domination. It was because of his blood bond with Granbell that he managed to escape such a fate. But if Mariabell were to become the person in charge one day, this might no longer be the case, Johann thought. So, he wouldn't dare do anything to anger Mariabell. What has been said here, you will not repeat outside. Of course not, Mariabell. I don't want to die just yet. Wise choice. Then, Johann, go send the letter to Demon Lord Rimuru of the Tempest Federation. I will draft the content later, please deliver it to him before the next conference. Without waiting for Johann's reply, Mariabell got to work drafting the letter. Even though she wasn't even 10 years old yet, Johann couldn't help but feel fear, as she rapidly began writing on the parchment. But from her attitude alone, you could understand why Mariabell felt that it was only natural for her to manipulate other people. In contrast to Mariabell, who gave off the arrow for ruler, Johann, a member of 5 great elders, couldn't even raise his head. I understand, Mariabell. Leave it to me. He then quietly left the room, accompanied by Yuki, so as not to disturb Mariabell any longer. Even after Yuki and Johann had left, Mariabell continued to ponder. Because she really had nothing much, except time. A lot of time. She had schemed, plotted and executed her plans. There had been many pawns for Mariabell to use. This time was the same. How exciting, how truly exciting. Mariabell, who trusted no one, was lost in her thoughts yet again today.